Hi, this is Mike Shannon from Sanoja Recordings. You are watching Studio Feed. My relationship to making music is just having this outlet of expression and basically just a way that I can sort of unleash a few of the things, a few of the demons inside or whatever. Just get those things off my chest, off my mind, and kind of express those things in different ways. That's pretty much how and otherwise it's just for me, a method of healing. Music for me is something that heals me, and it just kind of grounds me. And just sort of, without that, I think that I would be completely lost and useless, I got my first, pieces of gear when I was 15 years old. I remember having a Juno 106 was the first keyboard that I bought, and I had a couple of other drum machines, like a Roland 707, and a couple of odds and ends. And I just started kind of messing around with things like this. And at the time, it was pretty. You had to have a little bit of money if you wanted to be making electronic music and doing things like that. It wasn't like today, where you could just have a PC and roll with things. So a couple of friends of mine and I, we put our gear together and made a studio, kind of a project studio, the three of us, and put what we had, everything, into that room. And then we actually had something pretty decent at the time. We did a whole lot of recording then and a lot of mistakes, just making mistakes after mistakes after mistakes, and then finally getting something already good enough that we felt like we should share it. But that started when I was probably about 15. And with DJing, I started doing that when I was, probably about 12 years old. Probably when I bought my first record. The first thing was just a little bit of confidence that maybe somebody else is going to dig this, Maybe I'm dancing, maybe somebody else will. So maybe we can start sharing this now. And at the time, we were pretty unknown and nobodies, and things weren't quite as easy in terms of getting in touch with different people in the industry, shopping demos through those kind of labels was a little bit trickier than it is now to do that too. So at that point in time, we really just bypassed that whole thing, and myself and a guy named Jay Huntsberger were in an arts collective in Kitchener, Waterloo. And one of the projects within that arts collective was this project, which was Sanoja, which is what it is now. And we were making this project basically to encompass all the artists that were involved in the collective and all the musicians that were involved in this collective, and creating one vehicle to express all of these different things. So like graphic design, illustration, the recording and music and everything. So it was all part of this project, is how it all started there. And then things kind of went a little bit crazy, and just the funding that we thought we were going to have for that got kind of yanked from us. And so at that point, the project had developed so far already, and there were so many people that were waiting for this to happen, involved. So we had to go ahead and figure it out ourselves. So we kind of scrounged every cent we had together to make this thing happen and put one 12-inch together. And that would be the domino effect that kind of started everything then. So that record got out there. It was a compilation with a couple of artists from Toronto. Matt Thibodeau was one of the artists involved. There was another guy from my hometown, DJ Rue, myself, and Huntsberger. And so we got that out there, and that's basically a domino effect happened, and we started getting a little bit more attention and recognition, and things like this started coming together. And that was it, that was pretty much how we got our foot in the door there. And we were an obscure, unknown label coming from Canada. There wasn't a whole lot of things, besides Plus 8 Records. There wasn't really a whole lot of Canadian labels that were really getting any attention at the time. So we were kind of like somehow exotic, because it wasn't really related to any other places that everyone's all the, like Chicago or Detroit or all these things that the obvious ones. So somehow that was interesting to a couple of different cats in Germany, and that's kind of where things started to unfold then. I think really these days it really comes down to accessing all media as much as you can. I think today, like music videos are really crucial media right now. It's like, and a lot of people get discovered with YouTube videos and different things that way, and not even have any deal or any label signing or anything, nothing happening. And then that video comes out, and all of a sudden everybody's paying attention. Who are these guys? So it's like a lot different nowadays, I think, than when we started out doing stuff. That kind of media really wasn't there unless you had the serious budget. And that whole thing, that whole medium now just is a giant distribution marketing tool itself. Do you know what I mean? And then of course, like with actual physical distribution now, I think that's actually becoming more secondary than things like this these days. That's my opinion. When you look and you quantify the sales of physical sales of things the way they are now, it's way more effective to have just this kind of media presence and publicity presence than it is to have all of your records available in every single shop in the world. Do you know what I mean? I think that things have changed a whole lot though with the digital revolution, digital things like Beatport and shops like this. It doesn't really, now people can get their label going and get their feet on the ground and be running as long as people are interested and get attracted to that product, and they can access it from anywhere. Whereas back in the day, I had to come down to Yonge Street here, go to Fight at Play the Records, find those records and get involved with that. Those days are all long gone now. It's amazing, you're coming home, when you think of all the things that we had, where it all started, and what we kind of built back in those days in my hometown. Excuse me. It's an amazing feeling to come back and have everyone really appreciate where things have gone from then to now, and sort of can see more or less what's basically with this understanding that they were a part of that, and it's this whole feeling that that they've kind of been along with you the whole way, And when you're coming back home into that, and everyone's kind of following what you're up to and what's going on, and all your friends are kind of, waiting for the next thing to happen, you know what I mean? It's really a big rush, and I have to say I get more nerve-wracked coming home and playing in my hometown than I do playing for 3,000 people somewhere at some festival or whatever. Just the pressure's on in a different way that way, you know what I mean? You really have to sort of, you want to step up your game, and you want it to be something impressive to prove why, you were able to get out of this place. Do you know what I mean? Not that it's such a negative thing to be doing music here or being based here at all, but somehow people, when they say, okay, well you've made it over here, well why? And that's when you have to sort of step up your game, I think, and prove a few things. So. I mean, but just coming home and just whatever, like for me, it's like coming home, seeing family and my friends that I miss, that are like just as close as family to me. Seeing those guys is just a massive thing for me. So I have to do that as often as I can. I feel like I've forgotten something if I didn't. It's really like a big juggling act with stuff. I mean, between everything that's going on right now, it's pretty tricky to balance all those things. And obviously, it makes way more sense when you have a home base that's a little bit closer to all that sort of touring. You know what I mean? So you're not actually like shifting continents all the time. And obviously, when you're doing those things, you're doing those things in blocks. You're coming here, doing a few dates here. You're not scrambling them and going all over the place. For me, primarily like 80% of my bookings are all in Europe. So being based in Berlin now, it's made it really easy for me just to do the gig things on the weekends primarily, and then focus on all the label and studio stuff during the week. And of course, the whole thing has sort of grown a lot more. There's a lot of other people that are helping out with things than there used to be. And so that obviously helps managing everything when there's other people helping you out. But yeah, that's pretty much how it goes down. You just have to do everything sort of like, for me, it's just like I have my 9 to 5 studio time. Basically, I wake up, I'm in the studio at 9 a.m. and then when the day is coming to an end, like 5, 6 o'clock, I'm going home, being with my family, doing that. And I just kind of alternate those days. Like one day I'm kind of working on a project, another day working on label stuff. And that's kind of how I manage all that stuff. But it's kind of a with the family and everything too, it's a big juggling act, you know. You really feel like a circus performer sometimes. It's not easy. I think there's moments where you have those lulls where you're not so inspired and you're really kind of jaded on like the state of things, and you're just sort of like looking for something new and you're not finding it. You know what I mean? And so that's always when I'm just taking a big break from stuff, doing it that way. And for me, always the most inspiring thing is usually when I take those little breaks and sort of experience things in life that are really, with all that aside, you know, like really with my family and things like this. Just experiencing, you know, a lot of the things that really mean a whole lot more than just this whole industry and all this other blah blah, you know what I mean? And usually those are the things that inspire me a whole lot more. It's like, you know, also too, just drama in general just inspires a whole lot, you know. When things start to get a little bit tougher and things aren't so easy, then suddenly, like, the most amazing things come out of you creatively. Yeah, I mean, that's totally what inspires me the most, is just sort of drama in everyday life. That's really what pushes me along, I think. You know, really strive to do something that you have your niche on it, it's your stamp on it, it's your signature there. If you can find that and you can evolve that, then I think that you're going to be able to go places, because it's really easy to imitate things and do exactly what's been done before, you know what I mean? But if you can do it, you know, anyone that's been really into music for a long time and something really new comes around and they can say it's special, you can put your signature on that. It's like, that's really what it's all about for me anyway, in my opinion. So that would be my biggest advice, is just, even if it's not cool or not trendy or whatever, just stick to what it is that you really feel is the best, you know what I mean, and where your soul is. And as soon as you lose that, then it's a wholly different game altogether, you know. So that's the best thing I can say, is stick to your soul.